Howie, some of you have asked me what I meant in some of my recent interviews about IG Farben and Monsanto being the same thing. Someone said, oh, they don't make the same products. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the philosophical construct between these two corporations and what it means about in terms of capitalism, and also what it means in terms of what us as a consumer can actually have choices pertaining to. Now, let me explain this to you. I Before we start that, I was down a book recently called Philosophy and Living by Olaf Stapleton, which was written in 1939, and so it's contemporary to what was happening in fascist countries, particularly Italy and Germany, and it also gave comparisons with what was going on in the Soviet Union. It's actually a very good book. Now, basically Stapleton says, and I completely agree, that as totalitarianism was introduced in both Germany and Italy through fascism, people could no longer criticize the state. What this does then is it leaves the people of the higher intelligence and the more creative people to leave the country. This is why, it's the same reason why today large numbers of Americans are now, for the first time ever, emigrating out of the United States since the Patriot Act. It's also happened in countries like Sweden. There's large numbers of people leaving because they cannot live in those totalitarian systems anymore. Okay, doesn't matter if it's fascist or communist; it's the same thing. But in relations to this, IG Farben, okay, although it was predominantly involved with petrochemicals and in rubber making and chemicals and so on, the chemical industries and so on, had the same relationship with the National Socialists that Monsanto has with the current US administration, in that there's no difference between both. It's one hand is playing the other. They're the same people move between administrations into corporate board and back and forth again. Now, this is not capitalism. When I see these memes appearing on Facebook, oh, capitalism, it's evil. If we got rid of capitalism, it would be great. No, this is corporatism. Now, capitalism, in its original form, and Stapleton in this book really goes into this, it was driven by individuals with ideas, plans, initiatives coming from up here and down in the heart, and to develop something. Individuals who had no desire to create gigantic corporations. In many cases, they were happy just to sell in their local community. This is what capitalism was for many, many decades. At some point, psychopaths in government wanted corporations to have much greater control. So they streamlined the marketplace in order to benefit the large corporations. So when you have these Wall Street people on TV saying things like, oh, the government must stay out of the way of capitalism and let the market dictate. They're not talking about mom and pop businesses. They're not talking about small producers, small entrepreneurs, small inventors. They're talking about the McDonald's, the Walmarts, the Monsantos, the Tesco's, the BP's, the Shells. That's what they're talking about. It's not for you. It's not for you, the small business person. It's for them. And this came directly out of fascism. This came directly out of National Socialism in particular, who the idea was to consolidate all businesses within major corporations, which would be given contracts directly from the government. So this is the socialist part of National Socialism, that the actual producers and the large corporations are essentially suppliers procuring government contracts through the spending power of the population, rather than indigenous capitalism and entrepreneurial thinking coming from the bottom up, which is how capitalism works the best. Now, to demonstrate this, when large corporations first developed, people didn't go near them. They stuck with the local businesses. This is why the large corporations, such as McDonald's and Ford in particular, and Standard Oil and the Rockefellers and all their business, smashed small transport companies, small restaurant chains. Even here in Ireland, Guinness. I hate when people say that Guinness is the national brew of Ireland. In the 1940s and 50s, Guinness put hundreds of local breweries in Ireland out of business and turned them into supply depots for Guinness, the multinational. So remember that. When they try to associate a corporate idea with the state, it's fascism. And the most succinct example of that today is Monsanto and the Obama administration. There's no difference between Monsanto and Obama and Hitler and IG Farben. They're operating and they're functioning in the same way. And there's no difference in the Irish government and Allied Barracks banks, because they show where their priorities are. So when people say capitalism is evil, you're wrong. My God, are you wrong? Capitalism gives us freedom. Capitalism gives us choices. Capitalism gives the ordinary person, particularly the intuitive or the go-getter person, someone has a novel idea, to thrive and provide novelty and services of all different kinds and incredible diversity. The enemy is corporatism, not capitalism. And corporatism is a direct result of fascism. If you want to read more about this black magic shithole we live in today, my new book Valpurgis Night has just come out, and everyone really likes it. And that's what it's about. This is the occult history of Germany, but what it really is the story of Western civilization. Because what happened in Germany leading up until the Second World War, this is the first part of a trilogy, is the world we live in today. This is where the corporations took control of the government, because these guys like Hitler and the rest of them, and even Stalin, even him, I'm not taking sides here. I'm against all totalitarianism, because Marxism and National Socialism are two different roads to the same hellhole. Always remember that. So that's the new book, Valpurgis Night. Read philosophical books on the world from the 1930s and prior history, because you learn so much. Remember, capitalism is not your enemy. Corporatism is your enemy. And this is why we have no friends in government. The only people that have friends in government. And it started with this guy and that guy, despite their philosophies, on a major scale. And that's why we have it to this day. Because the same black magicians are in power. And they're not our friends. And they never have been. And the only way we can ever move economies forward is by getting rid of corporatism and bringing back old-fashioned entrepreneurship. And the best way we can do that is by start not indulging these large corporations. Shop locally, produce as much as you can, and vote with your pocket. Thank you.